Yeah, I'll go ahead. All right, whatever. If you want to do that.
Hey, Miss Jean.
How are you, Tom?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
There you go.
I talked to that David Likes again, Bob. I'll go up there. I'll go up there. Can't change anything.
Are you an Eskimo? Because he wants to sell you some ice.
No, I gotta go up there.
Susan, did you ever think about why the executive secretary of Canada thought that the agenda said 6 a.m.?
I have absolutely no idea. I looked absolutely everywhere. Julie sent her back a message saying, showing her the website where it said 9 o'clock, and she wrote back saying, well, I copied it before we changed it, so now she's going to accuse us of changing it. Well, first of all, if we made a mistake back in 2014, we're not going now and changing the agenda.
If she copied it, it'd be all over her website.
Well, people can go in and do things with what we have out there, but we have the originals.
Okay, good. Because I know the agenda that I approved what was posted was correct. Excuse me.
Magic 8 Ball. Wait. Oh, it's not good. Yeah. Fire.
Now, right away. Bob, don't wait. My paper strategically placed. Oh, I know.
Yeah,
No. I don't either. I don't either. Okay. You know, at the Furlong Town Hall meeting, Richard, half the board for the, well, not half, quite a few of the board for the health clinic were there, and they videoed Phil.
Saying that they're going to open a couple days a week or something.
Yeah, 20 hours free.
We heard that last year.
Right. Well, I think that's why he got videoed. And I think it's going to happen July-ish, August.
You look so good.
Put the wheels in motion. I think they're trying to give an inspection. Either waived or done. Miss Iota. Running?
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's going to give a call.
too much traffic on Belfast Road. Strange.
We're going to have to widen that thing, put that a 4-lane.
Well, I think there's something wrong with old Belfast Ranch. Too many new people. Everybody's got their binoculars out.
Drugs?
You guys are a suspicious group, aren't you?
Well, we got our gates locked, I can tell you that. Yep.
People are driving up that road?
Mm-hmm.
Who's living back there at the council?
Well, it's hard to say. There's too many parties over there.
What happens to end up there?
I know he's a single man, and there's a lot of noise. The canyon brings up a lot of noise. I can hear clear down to
Construction, he's by the college.
Jolene's place when they have parties.
Meeting to order. Public comment.
Oh,
Being none. Close that. Not the items to discuss in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board will be meeting in closed session for the following items. Conference with labor negotiator Richard Egan, the board convening as the Lassen County In-Home Supported Services Public Authority for discussion on labor negotiations. And we will not be meeting for a conference with legal counsel significant exposure.
Okay, that one for
It's blinking, Jim, it's blinking.
It's gonna be.
Oh, yee!
It's not running yet.
How far, is this your first cut?
So,
They're trucking it out yesterday. The other guy, he was
Hey,
Oh,
Bryce.
it's Jim.
oh, okay, but
well, I think we got this party, I mean, because he was giving us
225, the day after last year. Last year, definitely.
Shit, that's a big hit.
some color crowns and stuff.
$75 a ton. Damn it.
I said, but I'm gonna do something like chili.
You're like 3 days, that's down the line. Last year, 220, next year it's down
And take the costumes.
140.
Give us their email address.
Yeah, next year.
And,
About,
so,
business.
I just have to have some digital camera.
Believe me, I know.
Well, you know, it's not a good.
That's not
Maybe we have changes in here.
all the time. Minor daily. Minor daily.
Someday, turn up another day.
So, if we and then, you know, so they can get the awards.
You got yours too.
I don't know, I think
I do. Yeah. You get, you get your watch.
oh, it shuts it down. When they redid it last time, SMC did it. Came in front of the door, said, it's all bad. They said they just stack up, nobody gets out of the car, and they might run into it. They're all trying to get out of there really quick. See the line moving, and all they gotta give
And then they can go wherever they want.
I've often thought about starting to use my bathroom. I figured out it cost me about 16 cents every time somebody
Go
uses
to
my
the
bathroom.
Dollar Tree and get their,
Thought about it. I put a for customer only sign on there, so that's ignored.
so that they can spend their $50.
I don't mind providing that to people, but
They do.
Free meeting back to order. Okay, Jim, you, lead it to the
Ready, salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you, cloak us in wisdom and fortitude that we may disperse our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Amen. Not the items discussed in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board met in closed session and convened as the Lassen County In-Home Supported Services Public Authority for discussion on labor negotiations. A conference with labor negotiator Richard Egan. There was no reportable action.
Agenda approval, additions, and resolutions.
Mr. Chairman, we received notification that 10:30 time certain representatives of the U.S. Forest Service, most particularly Dave Hayes and Captain Chris Holland, is a cancellation for today based on some other activity they needed to attend to urgently.
Any other changes to the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda with the I'd like to ask them to adjourn our meeting today in memory of Robin Alfonso, the wife of our county director. Alfonso.
When she passed,
Last week. Actually, she passed, I think, last Tuesday while we were in session.
Okay, with those changes, we will, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, or no, ayes have it. We'll move on to-
Who did the motion?
Jeff,
Second?
yeah.
Thank you.
Public comments, I see none. Anybody in the audience have any comments? Mr. Spencer?
I'm Spencer from WeHelp.com. Each year, the Board of Supervisors place $2,000 in Fund 100, account 3002800 for the Chamber of Commerce's in Lassen County. I think there's 3. Each year, Mr. Egan paid the $800 LCPIC fee and the $20 fee for the Secretary of State from this account. Excuse me, apologies. We think it's inappropriate. We think it was done to hide the payments, but this may be the way you do business here. Prior to this year, Richard Egan paid these fees without bringing, prior to this year, this is the first time they brought those fees to the board to approve. 17 years he's been paying these without approval. We don't want to use the word secret or hiding, but it does appear that that may have been the case. Public records show that Lassen County paid only $645,000 towards the 1989 $6.675 million worth of certificates of participation. The balance was assumed then, according to records, public records, that it was assumed by the newly created LCPIC in 1998. Supervisor Chapman, Supervisor Pyle, and Richard Egan have kept this debt hidden from the taxpayers for more than 17 years. So it's time to disclose. We have copies of a public records request, and if you choose not to comply, we are prepared to take it the one step further. But it will let you know, this was before Mr. Hammond's time, Mr. Hempel's and Mr. Alwell's time. But Mr. Pyle and Mr. Chapman and Mr. Egan have been aware of this funding process or lack of funding process for over 17 years. So you get a copy of the public records request, and again, we are serious about following through and getting these documents.
Anybody else wish to speak or public comment?
She just wants to compare and make sure it's the same.
Okay, we'll move on to unagenda report by board members. Tom?
I have nothing.
Jeff?
Friday night, we're having a Memorial State Fire for Dr. Minor, Painesville, Lloyd Kiefer Park, 5 to 8. Should we mention that again?
Aaron?
The other thing I have is I'll be attending RCRC tomorrow and Thursday. I'll be in Downey Village. That's all I have.
Jim?
Just 2 things. I need to allocate out of my discretionary fund. I'd like to allocate $500 to the Veterans Food Locker, a new program that's starting up, and the balance of $750 to Joel Ratchey for use in small projects up at the Super Bowl Park. Talked to Joel, and he had a number of small little projects, picnic tables, and that would like to, he could use that money for, so that would take care of the
Okay, Violet had this poem here, Happy Father's Day poem she wanted to read. So, there will always be a father to populate the earth, though we may not always know them, they are bonded to our birth. When they have a famous father, or one they may abhor, or one they know they'll never see as he was killed at war. There are fathers in the spotlight, and some who misbehave, some respond, some repose in the restless sea, and others in a grave. Fathers come in different colors of languages and creeds. They are known as protectors, fulfilling cares and needs. Some are loving and forgiving and always do their best. Fathers come in all professions. Some are proud, some depressed. But always it's Father's Day. But anyway, it's Father's Day. Whomever he may be, he is the one responsible for fathering you and me.
I missed that.
She's doing a lot better. She just doesn't get out of the house as much as she used to. It's kind of hard for her to move around.
That was her son, with her son.
Okay,
She just said hello, and she wanted to make sure that Bob had the Father's Day going.
let's move on to information consent calendar. Anything here anybody with respect to the separate items?
The minutes? I just have clerk
Number 4, is that separate consideration? Nobody else? We have a motion to approve information consent calendar without 4. Second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes have it. We'll move on to number G.
Excuse me. I think it's just a typographical error. It's at the bottom of page 2, information consent calendar. Item 4 for separate discussion. It's item H6, it needs to be 6. The very last sentence on page 2.
Page 2?
Yeah.
I think you're right. We'll change that.
That's the only thing I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you have a motion to approve that with the change. Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Let's move on to H1. Infrastructure services. Mel, you? Looking at it.
Good morning, Melody Rowley, Lassen County Agricultural Services Department. I'm here this morning to ask for your approval of the documents we need to participate in the intergovernmental transfer process with Partnership Health Plan of California, also known as PHC. So this is how it works. I've explained this a few times, and I can't swear to you that I have a total understanding, but I'm getting much better at it. I've talked to you before about MAW, the Medical Administrative Activities, and how we can claim matching funds for activities we do. Well, this is very similar, except that we're actually doing this on behalf of Partnership. So Partnership could provide more services in county if it was part of the state's Medi-Cal plan, because Partnership is our managed care provider for Medi-Cal services. And the state chose not to participate in certain activities, which they can do when you're writing your Medicaid plan. You can choose which activities you want to support and which ones you don't. So the county and other partners can document what they spent filling in that gap of services that Partnership wasn't able to provide because it wasn't part of the state plan. So for instance, behavioral health, the home visiting program, the Veteran Peer Specialist program in particular was one that we were able to claim some IGT funds for. So at the end of the fiscal year, and this is actually for 13-14, we write a check to the state. The state administers the process for us, between us and the feds, to retroactively participate in these services that weren't part of the plan, or to kind of pay our share. The state sends the money on to the federal government for the same kind of reason, to retroactively participate in activities. And then the federal government sends a check back to the state, which includes their share. So they pay the federal share and whatever money we send to them back to the state. The state takes out its cut for administering the process. I know it sounds suspiciously like money laundering. And then they send the money on to partnership. Partnership they take out their MCO fees that they have to pay, their managed care organization fee, and then they use that additional money to justify a rate increase for providers, which is good because it means we can attract more providers to participate in Medi-Cal activities because the rates are a little better. And then partnership sends the rest of the money to us. So it's roughly double the amount of the check that we send to the state. So for us, that means $351,449 in new funds that we can spend in this coming year. So we're pretty pleased about that. And we expect to get better at this process.
How much did it start out with?
It's like $470,000. So it's not quite double.
So they siphon off about $120,000 going through all these changes. I just need to know because I'm sure there are some websites that will probably want to give a commentary about how monies are laundered in cycles. So I'm just curious how much it was.
Anyway, it's $351,449 new dollars to us. It requires an approved plan, an expenditure plan with Partnership Health for us to spend these dollars, and we're working on that MOU right now. We plan to use it to enhance existing services and to offset some of our costs, but probably the most exciting thing for us, and it's not going to cost a whole lot of money, but it's really exciting to us, is that we're going to work with Partnership and some other people in Northern California to really have a strong community awareness campaign about the problems we have with prescription and especially narcotic drugs in our community. How easily available they are and how often they get out of the hands of the person they were prescribed for and into the hands of kids or others who shouldn't be having them. So you can expect to be seeing that sometime in the fall. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Question for me?
So it's 20%. What percent of that, you have a 20% assessment fee facilitated? Is that 20%, that goes to the state?
That goes to the state for managing the process. See, we really
They're the one
can't.
that's opted out of not providing in this process,
Yeah.
so they get paid for not participating.
Your question?
What's theirs is theirs and what's yours is theirs.
Yeah, when it comes to Medicaid, we're not, as a county, permitted to work directly with the federal government. Now, my understanding is LA gets that deal sometimes, but we're not big enough to attract their attention. So the only way we can access this money is by going through the state and having them facilitate the process for it, and then they take their 20% cut for the work that they do.
Can't you pool with LA or something, partner up with them?
You'd think we'd be able to do that, huh?
You think?
So we're not big enough for the federal government to negotiate with, but yet they still send us $1.7 million in payments, directly bypassing the state.
Well, I'm just talking about the Medicaid piece. I can't speak for the other programs.
Well, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to be held responsible for pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing PILT doesn't run through your organization because it'd probably be moving down to just chunk change.
Probably. And then I'd have to take a cut too.
Well, I'm glad Mel has a good sense of humor about how they pickpocket her. So.
Well, it's exciting to me that we have some additional money because our home visiting program could use some funds. We're going to be able to use some of this money to support oral health, which is not eligible. We're not eligible to draw down any matching funds for what Jeannie Huber spends on the oral health program, but we're permitted to spend some of the money that we get back to supplement her program. So we think that's a good deal.
So this is a new pot of money?
Yes, it is.
And
How do you allocate that?
one time only?
Well, we can apply for it every year. In fact, partnership kind of requires us to apply for it every year because it helps partnership too. They can build a stronger network if they can offer better rates. I'm sorry.
How do you allocate that, since the children's program was shut down in the Hurlong area?
The Head Start program?
The Head Start program.
That's another.
Well, I know it's another entity, but I think it's is there any way we can focus a little bit of that money for the kids in the outlying districts?
I'm not,
It's just something for you to think about.
well, yeah, if somebody wanted to propose a program, I suppose we could do that. I don't know that we can fund Head Start, there's kind of.
No, I'm not saying that.
Partnership would have to approve whatever we wanted to do, and they tend to focus on health-related programs.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Public? Seeing none? Pleasure of the board.
The action requested is fairly specific, and it's identified at the bottom of the cover page, the new dwelling on. There are 4 items.
Is there any way you can negotiate that 20% now?
Now, let's say it's 14.
I mean, that's higher than credit card assessment.
I know. And it's higher than the admin we're allowed to have in a lot of our programs, but I don't feel that we have the ability to negotiate that. That's what they charge everyone who participates in IGT. And if Los Angeles pays it, I'm guessing that they've already tried to negotiate it.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They'll keep it.
Pardon me?
Sometimes they pay it.
Oh, well, no. Los Angeles pays it to participate in IGT. My comment was that sometimes Los Angeles is big enough that they can bypass the state and negotiate some of their health and social services activities directly with the feds. This isn't one.
What they're basically doing is they're having that 20% is they're having you pay their share of the match to the feds. Because that's all it's doing. Because there was a time when you paid like 5% and they had to pay like 20%, and then the feds paid 75%. A lot of these federal type programs. But as the budget crisis go along, they shifted the state share of the match to the localities. So in order to access it, we had to pay our share plus a major portion of their share. And now that the budget crisis no longer exists, they have just kept that formula in
Yeah,
place.
these formulas have been institutionalized.
We got used to paying their share, and in essence, we're nothing but extensions of the state. So what's theirs is theirs, and what's ours is theirs. And if they choose to do that and dictate that formula, I guess you just have to live with it, even Los Angeles County. For them, that's probably $1 billion.
That's a big chunk of money for Los Angeles.
That's a lot of money.
Interesting.
Okay, any more questions? We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'll second the motion. And I would just ask that maybe as these monies are to be programmed in these, and maybe Mel can come back and give us an update as to how these funds could be utilized to enhance our existing programs, or how they're being utilized, so we know kind of more specifically how they're being spent. So,
Yeah, it's an MOU with partnership, and it'll come back.
Okay, got a motion, and did we get a second?
yes.
Got a second, which would be action requested as 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the agenda. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Let's move to number 2, amend Title 16 and 18.
Mr. Anderson's not here, but I will field this item. This is the second reading of the proposed ordinance, which is essentially we mean what we say ordinance. It says that notes on maps have legal effect.
I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we waive the reading and adopt ordinance number 2015-003.
Second. Got a motion and second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
If they use that as an ordinance.
Vote you right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Madam Clerk, will you call the order?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Osborne?
Aye.
Supervisor Handler?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Parker? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
Number 3. H3 property tax sale.
Good morning.
What you have before you is the excess proceeds from last year's property tax sale. This is kind of wrapping it up. People have a year from the date of deeds to apply for their excess proceeds. What you have in front of you are the people who have applied for their excess proceeds. $44,219 went unclaimed, and that will go into the general fund. So is there any questions on the list?
Question.
As you look down below, I was trying to follow some of this, and I understand some of I didn't. If you get down toward the bottom there, you have the claim by Lassen County, OR&R, the Westwood CSD. You have amount claimed and amount recommended is 0.
Right.
And then, I mean, I'm just curious on why those are like that, whereas on some of the other ones you have amount claimed and amount unclaimed and recommended. I mean, it's just...
We ran out of money for all of the people who filed the claim. So on 125-083-05, child support took all of the excess proceeds.
Okay.
However, I have to tell you all of the people that additionally wanted money off of that
Okay.
parcel number, and we just didn't have enough excess proceeds to go around.
I see.
So
And what determines the hierarchy of those?
how their judgments are filed when we do the party of interest search. So whoever has the first order of judgment standing that filed a claim, we pay their claim off in full or in partial. Child support's claim was actually $7,000, and we were only able to apply the $3,000 because that's all we had to give to them.
Okay.
So it's an order of judgment filed, date judgment filed.
So the state, even if, I see the state listed in here a couple of times, they didn't get any money?
They did not, because their judgments were at the bottom of the list.
Wow.
So by the time we went through everybody's hierarchy, then that's how it came out. There'll be times even the county will have back taxes on mobile homes and we won't get money. It just depends on how our judgment is in line. So,
On that one below the bill with the state, you had 3 different amounts that were claimed by this one family, and 2 of them got an equal share, and the other one got a full request. So how did you make the determination?
because they held the note. They were the first deed of trust holders on the note.
Yeah, but the one guy had 18,280, and the other guy had 10,054, but they each got 8,200.
That's just how they held the deed. So there was 3 people, and that's just how they held the percentage on the deed. So that's how they got paid out on their excess proceeds.
They didn't have equal shares.
They did not have equal shares, they had percentage interest, yes.
Okay, anything, any other questions? Mrs. Spencer?
I have a question for Nancy. Medici Logging still has an outstanding balance on their taxes of $20,000. I know you talked about the bankruptcy court getting proceeds from the auctions. Were you able to get, or are you going to be able to get enough money to clear those taxes?
I know that we've got notice from the bankruptcy person that, escapes me, the person that holds their funds, the bankruptcy trustee. And they have noticed that sale has happened and that money is being held. How they disperse that money, they haven't come across with any listing yet. At least I haven't seen that. Have you, from the trustee, the money that's being held? So until they give us a breakdown of how they're going to pay out or disperse that money, I can't answer your question because it all sets with the trustee right now.
Okay. Well, my question was, do you think you're going to get it, or do you think you
I
just
think
have
it
to
goes
wait?
like excess proceeds, and I think they have a hierarchy of how they have to pay it out, and it just depends on when they get to me if there's any money left.
Okay. My understanding is taxes to municipalities are paid first.
And maybe so, but like I said, until we see how the trustee does their listing, we won't know. And until we get that, we can't even go and appeal or anything.
2 types of taxes with Medici, secured and unsecured. The secured taxes will survive the bankruptcy.
That's basically what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
But we don't know if they'll get paid out of those proceeds. But we will collect, but maybe not out of those proceeds.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions on tax sale? Hearing none, we have a motion to
I would move approval, Mr. Chairman.
To approve. You have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Thank you. Report, County Council, report.
Mr. Chairman, I see essentially two department reports left. One, I view this one, H4, as taking a pretty considerable period of time. A good discussion is hoped for. Is there any inclination to pass this for the moment and advance to H5?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's move up to H5 then.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, H5 is a suggestion for the possible appointment of a hearing officer to preside over the administrative hearings that were provided for in Lassen County Marijuana Cultivation Ordinance 2015-001. As you all, I'm sure, recall, that ordinance provided for an administrative process to deal with alleged violations. Due process is required and will be provided. And for that purpose, also included in the ordinance was the establishment of a hearing officer provision. There is, by the way, a statute in the California Government Code which allows for boards of supervisors to appoint hearing officers to conduct these kinds of administrative hearings. That was the authority upon which that particular provision of the Marijuana Cultivation Ordinance was relied. And so it is, as summer is approaching, we are already, I can tell you, having interaction with individuals on the marijuana cultivation ordinance that you adopted by way of an urgency ordinance. It's in effect. We've had contact with folks. For the most part, folks have been really good. They're interested in compliant. We've been making copies of the ordinance available and discussing it with folks as they ask questions. Certainly planning and building services have had the majority of contacts with people. But we've also, had a couple of interactions with some folks that are maybe fencing with us a little bit. We anticipate the potential for, we hope not, but I think it's possible we're going to have some violations this summer. And frankly, I wanted to be ready from the perspective of having a hearing officer in place, have staff geared up, forms in place, process reviewed. We wanted to be sharp. We wanted to be sharp and ready to go. We hope we don't have to use it, but it would be too bad if we went to all that effort to adopt an ordinance that had these provisions. We needed to use it, and we weren't ready. And so I have taken a liberty, and the liberty is that, and I don't have any particular ownership